All right, welcome to this week's Walk and Talk then, where I get asked this question quite a lot. Why do I make Thailand my second home? So I thought today we'll take a really relaxed and beautiful walk around this park here in central Bangkok. And I'm just going to go through all the pros, but also some of the cons of Thailand. For me, the research project I did. For any of you in the private community know, I spent months and months and months researching all different countries around the world. I looked at visas, I did big spreadsheets and calculated, the sort of person I am, all these different things. And for me, especially with the visa situation, which I'll tell you my visa situation here, this was head and shoulders above everywhere else. And another point here for everyone that says, Neil only goes to cities and does negative videos. What? You mean London, Paris, and Lisbon? I mean, give me a break. It's like 3 out of 50 cities that I've been to in the last few years where I've done videos like this. So I'll do a video here and I'll show you what other cities around the world look like. They are not all dystopian and filthy and crime-ridden and things like that, which a lot of people in the West seem to just think everywhere is like that. It's just not the case. I mean, look at this behind me here. This is just one park. It is absolutely beautiful. So firstly then, I get all these comments all the time, every time I'm here each year saying, oh, Thailand is a hole, it's an absolute dump, it's third world. I saw a documentary on CNN or some stupid thing like that, where they were living in shacks on the side of the road, all this sort of stuff. Like any country, there's always rich, there's always poor people. But just look at this, look at all these skyscrapers and high rises and things like this behind me. I feel like this video is going to be a bit of a culture shock for many people, more like a lesson in what it is actually like out here in Asia in general. And yeah, I get it, Thailand isn't for everyone, especially Bangkok. In fact, the first 2 times I came to this city where I was transiting through and going to another place, I hated the place. I really didn't like it the first 2 times, and then it really grew on me, and now I absolutely love it here. So does my wife. And no, she's not Thai. Before anyone asks if my wife is Thai, she is American. So I'll start with the first reason then, and that is around visas here. We'll cover visas, standard of living, I'll talk about crime, and I'll talk about all sorts of other things. Another one here is that there's people always working, by the way. Look behind, there's people always cleaning, always sweeping, always working. That's something very different as well that you see here. So my visa situation, for everyone that wants to know, I did do a really long and detailed post on this in the Patreon, by the way, if you did want to read that. But it talked about the different visas that I looked into. And I looked into visas all around the world. And no, you don't need to spend a fortune paying some of these companies to do this for you. You can do your own research. It's not that difficult. And what I found was that there was a certain visa that I was going to get, and then at the very last minute, Thailand launched something called the DTV, which is the Digital Thailand visa, which is a dream come true for a lot of people. And I know if you're in the private community that you are probably one of 200 or 300 people that have got this visa now. And I talked about how you can get it really easy. And no, this isn't a promotion. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not selling you on visa services or anything like that. It's super easy to get. It cost about £200 or £300, I don't know, $300 or so. It took about 3 weeks to get it. You can add your wife or husband on. You can add your children on. Very, very cheap indeed. And it gives you 5 years to actually live here. Oh, we've got a standoff over here with some sort of lizard and a crane or stork or something. So yeah, that's my status here. I am legally allowed to work while I stay here. I can stay here for up to 5 years. Now, does that mean I'm gonna live here for 5 years? No, I'm not. This visa for me is a backup plan, and also because I spend about 3 months here every year. This is my sort of second home, as it were. So I spend about 3 months here every year, and it is a backup plan visa. Now, what do I mean by that? If you've seen all the videos I've made on the different conflicts going on around the world, you'll understand what I'm talking about here. And you see conscription, it keeps being announced all the time for different Western countries. You know, you got the UK talking about conscription. You've got all sorts of European countries talking about conscription as well. So for me, this is a sort of backup plan. I've already done my 10 years in the army. I don't intend to fight a banker's war this time around. And the other great thing is I don't actually have to pay taxes here, because as part of the DTV, there's a clause that says you have to leave every 180 days. And the reason they do that is because if you think of most countries in the world, if you stay there for more than 6 months, what happens? You trigger you trigger taxation, basically, usually a form of income tax, but other taxes as well it can be. Now, as we're walking under these trees here, I don't know if you remember last year, but this is where that green snake fell on my head. So, oh boy, someone actually said in the comments that it was a poisonous snake. So I mean, I don't know, but it was a bit freaky for a snake to just drop on your head. Hold on, let's walk this way through the park here. So yeah, I have to leave the country every 180 days. It's just called a border run, basically. You just go to the border, you get your stamp, you come back in. It's basically so that you don't trigger taxes in Thailand. So it's a really good visa. So you might say, well, how are they making any money from this? It's because they are getting people living here. So the idea is that you earn money online. Maybe you're a freelancer, you've got a digital business, an online business. Remember, I made a course on teaching you all of this called the Rapid Cash Flow Program. I think a lot of you have taken it already. But just doing that program, having that, and you get something set up online, you qualify instantly for this visa. But there's loopholes as well. You can sign up for some sort of an educational course. You know, it can be Thai cooking or Muay Thai if you want to do some mixed martial arts or something like that. There are loopholes so you can get the visa as well. Okay, the next point then is that the crime rate here is incredibly low, and it's actually been dropping year on year for the last 8 years. I walk around any time of the day, even at night, even after dark. Most people won't walk after dark in their city anymore, especially if you're a woman. I know I've got a lot of women subscribers, you know. Here it's very safe. You can walk anywhere after dark. I walk around after dark all the time. I have no worries. I feel so relaxed just walking around. So yeah, I've got no concerns whatsoever. The crime rate is very low. So you're not gonna have any issues at all here in terms of crime. Now, for anyone that might say, well, I've seen brawls or I've seen fights or something like that. Yeah, I've seen the occasional fight here, but it's usually cultural. And it's usually either an American person or a British person or a European, almost every single time. Because what happens is there's either someone says something. You've got to remember the Thais are a very proud people, very, very proud. If you offend them or upset them, then it's not like America where people make digs at each other and make fun of people, or same in Britain and some parts of Europe as well. It's not like that. The culture's very respectful here. So you do see issues sometimes, or you just see random Westerners fighting each other. But you know, I'm just giving you a couple of generic examples. Let's walk this way actually. Let's walk through this part of the park today instead of going around the lake here. So point number 3, are we on now? That is the cost of living, which we'll talk a lot about because there's a lot to talk about here with cost of living. Here, I would say, or standard of living might be a better one to describe it. I would say the standard of living here is exceptional. Exceptional. And the way I always describe it, because people calculate it in different ways, whatever something costs you in your country, divide that by 4, divide it by 3 maybe, and that's the price of things here. If you just take that as a general rule, it's not exact in every last detail, but if you just take that as a general rule, divide by 4, it's about right as to what the prices are here. You know, you can go to last night I had a meal and it cost me, in US dollars, it cost me about $175 US dollars. That was just for the meal. I didn't have a drink with it. If I had a drink with it, you know, add on another $1 or so. But it's incredibly cheap. incredibly cheap here. The standard of living is really high. I mean, you can get a luxury, and I mean luxury, apartment here for about $800 a month. Now, you might say, oh, well, that's not that cheap, Neil. No, no, I'm talking about luxury for $800 a month. You know, state-of-the-art gym, swimming pool, hangout rooms. I mean, these are shared facilities, of course. Tennis courts. I've seen a basketball court. I've seen all sorts. Meeting rooms. There's the apartment block I was in the other day had a streaming room if you're a YouTuber or something like that. But some of the apartments are a lot cheaper. You can get a decent apartment here for $200 to $400 a month. A friend of mine, he's a teacher here, basically. He teaches English. His apartment is $300 a month. And it's nice. He's got a shared gym. He hasn't got a swimming pool. He's got a shared gym in there. He's got meeting rooms in there. There's this shared sort of party area. It's like a kitchen and a lounge. So you can book it and have it, you know, $300 a month. That's very, very cheap. He spends about $1,000 a month living here. Can you imagine having a good standard of living for $1,000 a month? Or what's that, £750 a month if you're in the UK, or I don't know, $850 in Europe somewhere. You just couldn't have a really high standard of living like that anywhere else. In fact, just think about the videos I've done on food insecurity and issues like that in the UK at the moment. And I don't do this to be critical, by the way. I'm doing this because I care about people, and I'm showing what is actually going on. I'm showing the causes as well as the solutions to a lot of this. Wow, look at this tree here. Look at that tree. Wow, that is impressive. Yeah, food bank usage in the UK now is at an all-time high. All-time high. And they don't seem to be able to figure out why that is. It's pretty obvious to me. 25% of children in the UK go to school without breakfast. And now the UK government's actually doing something about it, which is great. But one of the things that made me laugh is banning porridge as an unhealthy food. No, porridge isn't an unhealthy food. I mean, goodness me. It's these sugary, crappy porridges that these big, and they're always the big food companies, by the way. It's always these massive companies that are making a huge profit out of these things. You know, where porridge oats are just, or rolled oats or steel cut oats, very healthy for you, but these companies have turned them into these really unhealthy food items, if you can call them food. But yeah, food here, $2 or $3 for a meal will get you a decent Thai meal. $5 with a drink, I don't know, whatever you drink. If you have a beer or something, or a glass of wine, yeah, about $5 will get you that. Now, of course, I've got to add the caveat. If you're in somewhere like Sukhumvit or any of the, you know, more high-end areas, yeah, a lot of the prices are Western prices. So I've just got to add that in. But if you stay in the normal areas, yeah, divide by about 4 and you're about right there. The same's true for leisure and entertainment. Very, very cheap. Going to the movie theater here, you don't need to remortgage your house. No, it's very, very cheap. A few dollars, it gets you a really nice movie theater. They got marble. They've actually got marble in the lobbies, the foyers of these movie theaters. The sort of seats are unbelievable in some of these movie theaters. IMAX 4D and 4D, 3D? What is it? 3D? 4D? I don't know. But you know, they got all this stuff for a few dollars. It's ridiculous. But for me, and for any of you who are a lot older, this is a big one, a really, really big one. So the healthcare industry here is world class. I mean, it is one of the best in the entire world, and it's 5 times cheaper than the United States. Yes, fact check that if you need to. 5 times cheaper than the US, and it is exceptional. I remember, I could tell you loads of stories about healthcare that I've had here and treatments, but I remember in the UK way back in the day where it was easy to see a doctor. It was easy to get a medical appointment. If you needed a surgery, then yeah, there was a little bit of a wait, but you'd get it done. Forget about it now. I tried to see a doctor a little while back about my throat. This is an ongoing thing we've talked about for a long time. So I went to see a doctor about my throat, and it was just, forget about it. They said I had to call up at 8 a.m. every day to get an appointment. But you're calling up at 8 a.m. and there's 100 other people calling at 8 a.m. It's not gonna happen. And then I explained, well, I don't really want to take an appointment from someone who might be really sick. This isn't an emergency. Can you just book me an appointment, even if it's a month in the future? Oh, sorry, we can't do that. Right, okay, well, can I get a referral? Well, you need to see a doctor. Okay, so I eventually see a doctor, I get a referral. The referral's 7 months away. 7 months to see an ENT, ear, nose, throat specialist. So anyway, I did it. You see how ridiculous this is. And then they said, oh, we can add you to the waiting list to see this practitioner nurse. But it was 1.5 years before I could even, it was like, forget about it. I came out here, I went to the hospital the very same day. I got an appointment, I saw ENT, I had all these, they put a tube down my throat, they did all these scans and I don't know, all sorts of stuff. It took hours and hours. And they told me exactly what the issue was. And they said, don't worry, it's not a serious problem. This is how we're going to fix it. Pretty simple. Easy. How much did that cost me? £120. And I think that's why the healthcare industry here is set to be about $16 billion a year in the next 5 years, because people are getting fed up with being sick and not being able to see a doctor because the facilities are just overrun, especially in the UK and other places. You just can't see anyone now. You look how many people are sick or dying because they're just not being able to get the right healthcare. So it's no surprise to me that 2.5 million people come here either for medical tourism or they get medical visas every single year. It's crazy. The next thing then is transportation. So the transportation in a lot of Western places is okay, it's not bad. But out here in Asia, it is on another level. I mean, another level. Here in Bangkok, they have 2 main forms of public transport, which I take. One is the BTS, which is known as the Sky Train, and the other is the MRT, which is what you know as the subway or the underground. Both of these are amazing, super clean, everyone's respectful, super efficient, always on time. You don't get any druggies or weirdos or anything like that hassling you. It's air conditioned. I mean, it's amazing, and it costs less than 50 cents for a journey. It's like, I don't know, 30p or something for a journey. I mean, it's super cheap. Thailand's also got 6 international airports, and they're currently building a high-speed train between here and Malaysia. And they're doing it super fast as well, like really fast. Now, you remember HS2 in the UK. Have they even built that yet? I mean, how long has that been going on? And how many hundreds of billions is it over budget? I'm exaggerating there. I don't know what the budget is. But you get my point. Here they just get things done. It's just, they decide and they get it done. Another big one for me is broadband internet speed and phone reception. So it's 5G everywhere. The whole of the country has 5G, which some of you will like, some of you won't like, of course. But it's super, super fast. The average broadband speed here, okay, this is the average, 220 megabytes per second, which is really important for people like me who do streams. And because at home, what have I got when I'm streaming from the studio? I have to have business level broadband. It costs me £150 a month just to be able to stream to you guys from the studio. It's very expensive. Here, you get 220 on average just as a basic customer. It's ridiculous. The phone service, if you're in London or anywhere, you can't even get any reception. You've got 1 bar on 4G. Here you get 5 bars on 5G all the time. It's ridiculous. Now, some of you might say, oh, Neil, you've been so critical here of the UK and the West. Yeah, I am being critical because this is the facts and this is the truth of what is happening. But the Western media would have you believe as though you know, everything out here is some sort of a third world country and they're living in huts on the side of the roads. It's just not true. It is very, very developed, and it's developing even faster over here as well. Okay, so let me tell you my final positive point then before we come on to the negatives, and that's just enjoyment of life here, really. It's an enjoyable life. It is. If you are a Westerner here, I get it will be different if you are a Thai, but if you're a Westerner here, it's an enjoyable life. It really is. Even if you earn a very low or average Western wage, you live very, very well here indeed. The weather's nice all year round. Yeah, it does get a bit hot and sticky in certain, like April, for example, is a period I find it a little too hot here. But it's warm weather year round. You're in shorts and a t-shirt all the time. very, very comfortable. It rained today, actually, for the first time in a while. It rained this morning, so it's super hot and humid right now, so I am sweating a little bit. But apart from that, it's usually very, very comfortable temperatures here, and the people are very nice. The people are extremely friendly. Actually, we've got a military slash police gazebo to my right here, which I'll just show you, and they're all over the place. But it's very different to, say, Paris or other places. They're not here because there's crime. It's more of a deterrent. They're sort of here as a public service, is how I describe it. I've never once seen any of these, I don't know if they're police or military, actually, that guy behind. I've never once seen them taking someone down or doing anything like that. So yeah, living here is very, very comfortable. I mean, very comfortable indeed. Not to mention the natural vitamin D, which keeps you a lot healthier, and you don't tend to get sick out here or get a cold or viruses or things like that very often. Okay, but I do need to cover some of the negatives. There are some negatives that I feel, because as always, I've got to add balance to any area or anywhere I go to. And yeah, this isn't a big production video with loads of tons and tons of B-roll and showing you all the, I just wanted to do a quick walk around today so you get a feel for just my thoughts, really. And remember, this is my own personal opinion. It's not a fact. This is just my personal opinion here. So there's 4 things I would say that are negatives. 4, that's all for me. Some of you might have not see these as negatives, others might have more. But the first one I'd say is the traffic. So sometimes, especially during rush hour, you could be sat in a taxi for 30 minutes. I'm not even joking. And you're not getting anywhere at all. But I mean, that's one of the negatives, okay, traffic. But the solution is you don't take a taxi. You don't drive around during these times, or you plan your journey out. You take the SkyTrain, you take the metro. It's pretty simple. Or you get on I mean, I don't take the bikes here. There's a lot of taxi bikes, which will get you places quickly. But sometimes they don't have helmets, even though they're supposed to. So that's the only reason. It's just not worth, for me, the gamble. So I'll just take public transport, like the BTS, for example. The second point then is pollution here, so smog in particular. It is bad. I mean, it's really, really bad. I'd say it's one of the, I don't want to exaggerate and say one of the worst in the world, but because there's probably places in India that's the worst in the world, or Bangladesh or something, but it is bad here. The pollution is bad. A lot of people would prefer to work out in a gym that has an air filter than they would to come to the park. But you do see a lot of people come into the park in the evening when it cools down. But yeah, pollution here is bad. If you've got asthma, you're going to have issues, I would say. But that's why a lot of people, they don't do huge amounts of outdoor activities if they do have asthma, for example. And it's also very common for random men or women to just come up to you and talk to you, shall we say, which is what just happened. That's why there's a little bit of a cut there. Okay, number 3 then is walking around. Now you can see most of the paths are pretty good when you walk around in Bangkok. They are. But it's a little bit different out here. So the Thais just, they pretty much park wherever they feel like, even on the sidewalks or the pavement. They set up their food carts wherever they feel like, which I love, by the way, that they have these food carts, because you can't do this in the West. You know, the regulations involved in having a food cart, it's impossible. Whereas here, because there aren't all these crazy regulations, people just get on with it. The food's cheap and it's delicious. So good, the food here. And do you know what? In all the years of eating the food on the food carts, only once have I ever gotten sick. And again, I can't even pinpoint that to the food cart. I think it was, but it could have also been the water that I drank. I drank a glass of water, so I can't really pinpoint where it came from. But yeah, getting back to the point, walking sometimes, you do have to walk into the road, but again, you don't get run over. They just sort of drive around you, or if they're on a bike, they just go around you. And then my fourth and final point then would be smoky season. But that's really only in the north of the country, around Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai. So I'd say that's January to February time, which is a shame because that's my favorite time to be up there. But it's when the farmers burn off all the rice paddy, which the UN is trying to get them to stop. The WEF and other organizations are trying to get them to stop. Oh, here we go. Who's this fella? He's pretty chill. Oh, he just caught a snail, look. Oh, 2 snails. 3, 4, 5, 6 snails. I see, he's just going down, taking all of these big snails out and eating them. So yeah, during the smoky season, you just don't go up north. You stay in Bangkok, or you go to the islands or something like that. So, I mean, these are first world problems I'm talking about here. It's not as if it's sort of anything crazy. So that's really my negative list. I mean, it's not really that negative, really, is it? Those few points there. But overall, as I said, I did a ton of research on the best places to live or get residency or get visas and things like that. And this was, for me, without a doubt, the best option. Now, it won't be good for all of you. Some of you might not like the culture here or whatever, but I do. I love it here. So does my wife. And that is why we treat this as our second home, or if there's ever anything crazy that breaks out, like a big war or something, we'll treat this as our full-time home, and this is where we would move to. So thanks so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. I hope you are subscribed to the channel here. And apart from that, take care, God bless you, and I will see you next time. They love these sweeping robots out here. This is in the mall here. This is a smaller mall that I'm walking through at the moment. So you have these beautiful malls everywhere here. Just beautiful. A lot of designer stores. You got Gucci and Dior, Louis Vuitton over here. All sorts of high-end brands. I see all these ridiculous comments about Southeast Asia and Thailand, places about being this third world nation. Everyone lives in shacks and huts on the side of the road. You know, I think people are way out of touch with how it is now. What do you notice about the food here? It's very healthy. A lot of juicing, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables.